All right, NFL fans, welcome back to another episode of the NFL Whip Round. I'm Jeff Hartman, as always, joined by Coach Kevin Smith. What's up, Coach? How's it going?
What's up, Jeff? NFL whip around week 7.
Yep.
It's unbelievable how fast it goes. Next week's going to be the halfway point of the NFL season already.
Yeah. I've said this on multiple shows before. It really does suck because the offseason is so long and we spend
Yeah.
so much time thinking about and saying what's going to happen. And now it's here. And it just feels like once you get into that rat race of this game and then this game and then this game, and it's gone before you know it. So we better enjoy it. And here we are, like you said, week 7 is officially in the books. Week 8 is upon us. And before we take a look ahead, I wanted to look at who are contenders and who are pretenders in the National Football League. Now, there's only one-loss team, genuine one-loss team in the NFL, and that's the Indianapolis Colts at 6-1. The Green Bay Packers have a tie, so that's a one-loss team. So I would say that right now, no one in their right mind would say that they're not contenders considering the rest of the league. Would you agree with that, though?
Oh, I agree for sure. I mean, I think that people still want to see a little bit of a bigger body of work from both those teams.
Right.
But what you've seen, especially from Indianapolis so far, if you're not impressed, if you don't think that they are built to win when the weather gets cold, I think that you're being naive.
Yeah, they run the ball well. So, and the running game can travel. So let's talk about 2 and 3 loss teams. And we're going to run down through the conference. And you tell me, Coach, whether you think these teams are contenders or if they are pretenders. So let's start in the AFC. We have a lot of 2-loss teams. Let's start with the AFC East leading New England Patriots at 5-2. Contender or pretender?
I don't know if they're a contender yet, but I'm buying into the Patriots. I think the Patriots can challenge Buffalo for the AFC East title. They may be a little bit green to be able to play deep into the postseason, but they do some things really fundamentally well. Drake May is emerging as a franchise type quarterback. They tackle, they run to the ball. They may lack a running back right now. It'll be interesting to see if they're active in the trade market as we lead up to the deadline here. But I think they could probably use an upgrade at the running back position. But they're doing all the little things that it takes to win football games, not beating yourself, other than that Steelers game when they turned the ball over 5 times. So, New England has impressed me.
Okay, so they're on the cusp of contender status. I like that. I think the next one's an obvious one. The Buffalo Bills, 4-2. They're coming off a bye week. You would say contender, no?
Contenders, no doubt, but with issues. They got to fix their defense. Their defense is in the bottom third in all the metrics right now, and it's a unit right now that looks vulnerable.
Okay. So we go to the AFC North. There's only one 2-loss team. That would be our Pittsburgh Steelers at 4-2. Tough to swallow the last loss on Thursday Night Football against Joe Flacco and the Bengals. What do you think, Coach? Contender or pretender?
Unless they fix their issues in the defensive secondary, they're a pretender. They can't win with the number of mistakes and self-inflicted wounds that they make. I mean, good football teams don't beat themselves, and the Steelers, with the execution errors, are doing just that at times.
You think the offense, though, is trending in a direction that could make them a contender from an offensive perspective?
Yeah, I think they could score points. The thing that's doomed the Steelers in this playoff drought that they have dating back to 2016 is that, granted, they've been awful in playoff games, but big picture, they just haven't had the offensive firepower to be able to play with the Buffaloes, the Baltimores, the Kansas City's, teams that score points in the playoffs. I think they have it this year.
That's wild. With Aaron
Rodgers, the defense is the concern in Pittsburgh. When's the last time we said that?
Talk about flipping the script. Like, it's usually the defense is great and very stout, and can the offense just do enough to get enough points? And now it's, can the defense figure it out? We shall see. There's a lot of money spent over there. We'll see if they can do it. Let's go to the AFC South. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a loss over in London. They're 4-3. What do you think about them? They're a tough nut to crack for me. I think I'm leaning more pretender, but what do you think?
If this were Family Feud and they were like, name 5 contenders, Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, no, man. I thought, Trevor Lawrence isn't playing very well, and I think that they're a mediocre football team, and they're probably going to wind up being a 9-8, 8-9 team.
At what point do we say Trevor Lawrence is a mediocre quarterback?
Now, You know,
Okay. Well, hey, that's a fair question. That's a fair
yeah.
answer too. I mean, we've seen a lot from him. Like we've had a large sample size, and he hasn't really done much. And uh, you can say that it's been bad coaching. He's had a lot of coaching turnover. That he doesn't have a lot of weapons. But man, they gave him a lot of money, and he hasn't really produced. That's interesting. All right, I think the toughest division to figure out is now the AFC West. You have the Denver Broncos at 5-2, coming off that unbelievable come from behind win with 30 plus fourth quarter points against the Giants. They're 5-2, coach, contender or pretender?
I think they're a contender. I think that they're a team that gets better as the season goes, like they did last year. I think Bo Nix is playing some great football. I think that win against New York will do wonders for their confidence. They're down 19-0 in the fourth quarter. I mean, they're in NFL history, you're down 19 points in the fourth quarter. The number of teams that have come back to win, you can count on one hand. They scored more points for a team that had been shut out for 3 quarters. They'd scored more points in the fourth quarter than any team in history. And a young team trying to find itself, that does wonders. I think Sean Payton's an excellent coach. They rush the passer better than anybody in the NFL. They lead the NFL in sacks by a country mile. So that's a team I feel as though is going to be around in December.
So you're saying contender?
Yeah, I think
All
so.
right. What about the Chargers? They're 4-3.
You know, they're another one. I will never buy into the Chargers until the Chargers prove me otherwise, right? You know, I mean, Chargers could go 16-1, and I'll be skeptical until they win in the playoffs.
So that's what they have to do, is they have to win in the postseason for you?
Yeah, when have the Chargers won a really big game when it mattered?
It's been a long time.
A long time.
Go back to probably when Phillip Rivers got him to the AFC Championship game on a torn ACL.
Yeah.
That's probably when it was. So
Yeah.
that's a long time ago. And of course, we'll talk about this team in a little bit, but the Chiefs 4-3. I think I know where you're going with this one.
Yep. I mean, let's just resign ourselves to the reality that they are once again a contender.
Absolutely. Let's go to the NFC. The NFC's got some interesting teams here. The Eagles is 5-2. They bounced back after 2 straight losses and win. Was it enough for you to say this team's not going anywhere?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the Eagles are a team that, again, until they prove us otherwise on the opposite end of the spectrum, that they're not a contender, that you have to say they are. They had a streak last year where they lost 2 out of 3 and everybody was questioning them, and then they won 18 out of the next 19 games. So I think that they'll bounce back.
But what about the Cowboys at 3-1? They just keep hanging around. They keep hanging around. I know that there's some Cowboys fans that are really getting on board and saying, I think this team can do it. The defense definitely has their warts. What do you think about the Cowboys?
They're dynamic on offense for sure. And now that they've got Pickens and CD Lamb back in the lineup, they just put up 44 against the Commanders with those two. When they're healthy, they're really good on offense. I just don't think they have enough defense to be able to stand up in the postseason.
All right, so the Detroit Lions coming off their Monday night victory is a pretty dominating performance at that over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're 5-2. You'd say they're contenders, yes?
Absolutely. I think they look fantastic.
All right, and the Bears at 4-2. This is a weird one. I want to believe in what Ben Johnson's doing. They've got a really tough game coming up. I believe they go to Baltimore this week. What do you think about the Bears at 4-2?
I mean, they haven't beaten anybody when you look at their schedule, but they're winning games, and that matters a lot. Again, for a traditionally downtrodden franchise, any wins are good wins. You're 4-2. You're getting better each week. You have to feel great about yourselves. Caleb Williams still isn't playing great quarterback, but they're winning games anyway. So I'm not ready to say that they're a contender, but you have to like where they are.
All right, we got to throw the Vikings in. I said 2 or 3 lost teams. This whole division is 500 or better. The NFC North, I think, is one of the best, if not the best division in the NFL. They're 3-3. They're hoping to get J.J. McCarthy back. I'm not sure if it's going to matter, Coach. What do you think about the Vikings?
No, the Vikings have quarterback issues. I mean, J.J. McCarthy may end up being a really good quarterback for them, but this is going to be a growth year for him. And unfortunately, the injury has, put his maturation process behind schedule. This is going to be a year where I'm not going to say they're going to take lumps. They're not going to end up like 5-12 or anything like that. But I don't think that they can compete with the best teams in the NFC because of the quarterback situation.
Do you think that they're regretting not trying to bring back Sam Darnold?
if you could, what is it, sodium pentothal that makes you tell the truth or whatever. So, you know, like, if you could get Kevin McCarthy to down a bunch of that, I think he would probably admit that, yes, man, maybe they moved on a little quickly.
All right, let's go to the NFC South. Not as bad as we thought from a division perspective. The Buccaneers are 5-2. You would say contender or pretender?
I still think they're pretty darn good. Detroit made them look ordinary, held them to 9 points on Monday night, but it's tough to go into Detroit and win. And I think Tampa is a team with Mayfield playing great quarterback. And as long as they can stay healthy, losing Mike Evans for the season, it looks like is going to hurt them. Chris Godwin's been out. So if they can stay healthy, I think that they got a chance to make some noise.
All right, then we have the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, your oldest son's favorite team for some reason. 4-3. Like, what do you think about Carolina?
I can't decide who's a worse 4-win team, Carolina or Chicago, like that. But hey, again, credit where credit is due. You're winning games. It matters. It matters in the locker room. It matters with your motivation imagine having to walk into the Jets facility right now when you're 0-7 and you're like a bad 0-7. You've benched your starting quarterback. You just got smoked by the Browns. It just feels as though Carolina as a 4-win team has hope, and they may not be ready from a talent standpoint, but to be halfway through the season and still playing for something for a franchise like that is important.
Yeah. I mean, I never saw this coming. Never saw it coming. But for the franchise, this is exactly what they need. The Falcons are 3-3. They are a roller coaster ride of a team. They'll have a big win and then follow it up with a bad loss. What's your take on the Falcons, contender or pretender?
I'm not buying Michael Penix yet. He's been really inconsistent. I don't think they have an offensive identity. I did a film breakdown on Bijan Robinson 2 weeks ago after he went off for 200 some total yards in a Monday night game, and he looked amazing. And then this past weekend, like they only got him like 16 touches. It feels like the offense should run through him, but it does sometimes. It doesn't sometimes. I think they got some things to figure out.
So then we go to the NFC West. This is a division that has 3 teams at 5-2. The 49ers, due to tiebreakers and all that stuff, are the first place team, then the Seahawks and the Rams, all at 5-2. Coach, out of those 3 teams, who are contenders and who are pretenders?
Well, I really believe in the Rams. They're good on defense. Matthew Stafford continues to play phenomenal football. He had 5 touchdown passes the other day. So, I mean, they're going to be there amongst the contenders in the NFC. San Francisco is working miracles out there. Kyle Shanahan doing a heck of a job. He's going to be on the coach of the year conversation. And obviously you have to like what Seattle does. I think Seattle plays tough defense, and Sam Darnold to Jackson Smith-Njigba has become one of the best connections in the NFL, giving them enough offense now to be able to win some games. So that division is going to be a toss-up between those 3 teams.
But would you say they're all 3 contenders?
I don't know if San Francisco can continue to kind of duct tape it together, given the injuries that they have. When Christian McCaffrey is healthy and running well, I think San Francisco is a contender, but that's a big if because he gets dinged up a lot. I'm not ready to say Seattle's a contender because I don't know if they can keep this going for 17 weeks. I mean, for me, the most legitimate one in that division is the Rams.
And San Francisco also lost Fred Warner for the year, so they're already without Nick Bosa. Like it's literally a who's who of injured players out there in San Francisco. Like you said, they're working miracles. So let's continue off the contenders and pretenders talk. Let's go to the running backs. We've talked a lot on this show the last 2 years about how there's been a resurgence at the running back position, whether it was last year Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, or whether it's this year with a lot of really good performances from running backs. You still have the Saquon Barkleys and Derrick Henrys. They're having down years statistically, but you have Jonathan Taylor with a resurgence. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs up in Detroit, Christian McCaffrey that you already mentioned. You could even go to like I don't know if I'd call it a one-off, but like Rico Dowdle has a big game for Carolina against Dallas, his former team. Who am I forgetting, Coach, in terms of the running backs that are really stepping up and performing well?
Yeah, again, Bijan Robinson has been at times really dynamic in Atlanta. When the Steelers have their running game going, Jaylen Warren is really impressive there. I feel like the running back position has become more diverse than ever before. You're seeing a lot of these guys now being incorporated as pass catchers. If I were starting a team
That was the
and
next
you get
question. Yeah, go ahead.
okay, and you gave me an opportunity to just pick one, I'd be very torn. And it's a stylistic thing. I have two backs in mind. What do you really want in your offense? Do you want the workhorse back who's going to get you 20 some carries a game and be able to dominate a game between the tackles? If that's the case, then give me Jonathan Taylor, because I think that his style is classic. It's classic running back. And when you got a guy like that and a line like the Colts, they're always great up front. You can win football games. If you want a dynamic back, my gosh, maybe this is recency bias having watched them last night, but Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely electric. I mean, he had 200 and I think it was 18 total yards on Monday night. Detroit does a great job of getting him in space. But the thing about Jahmyr Gibbs, I think that surprises people is how well he too can run between the tackles. He took a 78-yard A-gap run, duo insert to the house in last night's game, where he just, boom, hit the hole, stayed skinny, and then once he's into the secondary, forget it. So that it would be a toss-up to me. I mean, if you made me choose, I would probably choose Jonathan Taylor simply because of maybe the durability of a bigger back. But I love watching Jahmyr Gibbs.
So my question is something you said there, and I agree. I was going to go with Jonathan Taylor. I've always liked his style. I've always liked the way he runs the football. But I'm going to go with Taylor because you said the offensive line of the Colts. Well, if we're starting a team, my question that I would ask is, which running back is not scheme specific? Which running back can do any different, he can maybe excel with one over the other in terms of zone schemes, gap schemes, all that stuff. But in terms of what can they do? And maybe if they don't have the best offensive line, can they still make it work? When I lay it out like that, would you still say Jonathan Taylor is the cream of the crop?
That's such a good question because the success of every back that we just mentioned is tied to their offensive line. You look at Saquon Barkley last year. Well, Philly had a dominant line. Detroit has a dominant line. Indy has a dominant. We're talking about three of the best offensive lines in football, and they just so happen to have excellent running backs. So I think they're all tied to the offensive line. I don't know if any of them can succeed. You're seeing what's happening with Barkley a little bit this year as defenses game plan to take him away, and it's limited his effectiveness. So I don't know if any of them could stand up on their own without an elite offensive line. The Barkleys and the Taylors probably have a little bit better of an opportunity to do so, simply because if you put Jahmyr Gibbs behind a bad offensive line, you got to get him out in space, and that limits his effectiveness. I mean, he's great in space, but it makes him more one-dimensional. With that Detroit offensive line, the fact that Gibbs can run between the tackles and then obviously hurt you on the perimeter makes it like kind of a pick your poison for defenses.
I feel like the Jahmyr Gibbs, what you just described, it would be like, just look at Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. He doesn't have the best offensive line. And so you see these sparks and you see these big plays, but it's never that consistent because he just doesn't have all of that going. So interesting stuff. The running back resurgence continues. We'll keep tabs on that throughout the season. But let's talk about some old guys, some old quarterbacks slinging the pigskin around. So we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, and Matthew Stafford last week combined for 12 touchdowns thrown. That is incredible. And they led their respective teams all to 30-plus points each. What do you make of the old man renaissance at running back? Or I'm sorry, quarterback, not running back.
Yeah, the old man renaissance indeed. They're all three of these guys playing really good football. Stafford is probably I don't want to say he's in the MVP conversation, but you look at his numbers and it's just like, how's he doing this at almost 38 years old? Rodgers is playing the best quarterback Pittsburgh has had since Ben Roethlisberger's prime. And, Flacco came off the damn couch and beat the Steelers on Thursday night. So I think the big thing is this: the NFL passing game has changed. It is a league now where the priority is on horizontal stretches of defenses, get the ball out of your hands quickly. None of these guys are taking your classic 7-step drop and waiting for a receiver to run a 9 route 35, 40 yards down the field. Rodgers has the fastest snap to release of any quarterback in the NFL right now. I mean, they're getting the ball out of his hand quickly. And when you can do that, these guys have seen everything you could possibly see from a defense. every coverage, every stunt. They're so good pre-snap mentally that they know where they want to go with the ball. And so when you structure the passing game to allow them to get the ball out of their hand quickly, and you give them the ability to make decisions based upon their pre-snap reads, they can have a lot of success.
How much do you think this success? I mean, it's to me, it's also in between the ears. I mean, these
Yep.
guys have seen it, and you see it with Aaron Rodgers because we watch the Steelers every single week. He's able to see what the defense is trying to do and how they're trying to disguise things, and he's able to diagnose it quickly, and he knows exactly what to do to counter it. But it also, how much of it is tied to the rules of the NFL? You see these receivers, they get away with a lot themselves, and it's always the flags that, I don't know, 95% of pass interference calls goes against the defense. How much of that would be the experience tied with the rules and they know how to exploit it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Would they be able to have this success 15 years ago?
Right.
When you could tee off on them a little bit more. I mean, that's a great question. I get nervous anytime a quarterback gets hit now as a fan. Like if I'm rooting for a team and then here comes the pass rush bearing down on the quarterback, I'm always, or the quarterback's out scrambling, I'm always kind of like, don't hit him. And that's a terrible, imagine trying to play defense like that. So obviously, yes, these quarterbacks know that they've got the refs on their side. I don't mean that, like bias in a biased way, but in terms of just the way the game's officiated. And that's allowed them to, extend their careers, no doubt about it.
I mean, hell, there's pass plays where all these quarterbacks, because they're smart enough, they'll see the nameplate of the defender and they just throw it to the receiver. Because if the receiver comes back to the ball and the defender's not looking at the ball, it's going to draw a flag. So,
Yep.
Hey, I don't blame them. They're playing the rules to their advantage. But let's continue talking about the team we mentioned with the Contenders and Pretenders segment, the Chiefs. Another big win. They seem to be having fun. That was a dominant win over the Raiders this past week. Are the Chiefs the team to beat in the AFC is the question, Coach.
Unfortunately, I think the answer is yes. I mean, I don't know how much stock you can put into that Raiders win for two reasons. One, the Raiders are awful. They're awful. I mean, they lost 31-0, and it wasn't that close. 2 weeks ago, they took a 6-0 lead on Indianapolis, and then in the span of 2 quarters, were down 40-6. Gave up 40 consecutive points in 2 quarters to Indy. Indy and KC are good football teams, but the Raiders stink. 2, the Chiefs got all their weapons back for the first time in that game against the Raiders. Rashee Rice was back from suspension. Xavier Worthy is healthy. Hollywood Brown is healthy. They have all their speed on the field right now. Well, that was the first week we got to see it all together. And I think that the NFL needs to figure out what's Kansas City going to do with these guys and then start to game plan accordingly. So it'll be interesting to see 4 or 5 weeks from now, when there's a bigger body of work on film, if defensive coordinators will have more success limiting Kansas City's offense. And that's the challenge, obviously. I mean, it's unbelievable how good this league is at catching up to teams that do things well. Again, let's reference Saquon Barkley, right? Last year, he was unstoppable, 2,000 some yards. And this year, he's been almost a non-factor. Defenses catch up. So Kansas City looked awesome with all their weapons on the field. Can now defensive coordinators catch up to what they want to do and limit their effectiveness?
I don't know. This makes me sick to my stomach just talking about the Chiefs again. It's going to end. It's got to end at some point, Coach. It's got to end. But let's go to our last topic here before we get to our profile, which I'm going to surprise you with. You don't even know what it is. Okay. Who's the coach of the year so far in the National Football League? We could go in a lot of different directions. As I went through the standings, there were teams that were surprises, and I tend to lean in that direction. Andy Reid's great, but we always expect the Chiefs to be contenders, So I guess, in your opinion, who would be your coach of the year nearing the midway point of the season?
Yeah, I think my top 3 would be Shanahan in San Francisco, just because to get that team to 5-2 with Mac Jones and all the injuries that they've had is phenomenal. But the top 2 would be, I think in this order, I'd have Mike Vrabel at number 2 because New England was a dysfunctional mess last season, and he has brought stability to the locker room and restored a culture there. And they play hard. Mike Vrabel's teams always play hard, but they're also getting really good quarterback play out of Drake May, which is something that they haven't had since Tom Brady left. And then Shane Steichen, man, up in Indianapolis, the job he is doing with that team. I mean, they are putting up historically good numbers on offense when you get into the advanced metrics and things like that. They're doing things offensively in terms of the DVOA, the EPA, and the run and pass, et cetera, that haven't been done in 10 years. And it's over 7 games now. So if you do it over a couple of games, maybe that can be an outlier, but you do it over 7 games, almost half a season, you have to start taking them seriously. So those would be my 3 guys.
All right, if I'm going with 3, my number 1, believe it or not, is actually Dan Campbell. And I just said that we expected the Chiefs and all that stuff, and most would say that they would expect Dan Campbell's Lions to continue to be good. However, we all know what happened in the offseason. He lost both of his coordinators. Yeah. And so you look at Philadelphia as a good example. Jalen Hurts has had a new coordinator almost every single season, and there's been bumps in the road. And I got to say, this Lions team, for losing offensive and defensive coordinators, they look really good. And it's not that there haven't been hiccups. There have been. But for a lot of people, us included, that had questions about Dan Campbell's team with 2 different coordinators, I feel like he's answered those questions for sure. I also want to say Mike McDaniel, not Mike McDaniel. Oh my gosh, the Seattle Seahawks coach, just Mike McDonald. I want to give him credit. I want to give him credit because the moves he made in the offseason were questionable at best. We were sitting here saying, okay, what's he doing? He trades Geno Smith. He trades DK Metcalf. Is he kind of like rebuilding this team? They signed Sam Darnold. What's this going to look like? They look like a pretty darn good football team is what it looks like, with a really good defense, and he's a defensive-minded coach. And then lastly, the Carolina Panthers. I just want to talk about the Carolina Panthers for a second because they are a 4-win team. Coach Canales down there, no one expected this. Bryce Young was being written off as being just traded away or just dumped. And he's turned it into something. I don't think they're contenders, but he's turned it into something. They're a respectable team. So those are the 3 all NFC guys I want to go with. Coach, any thoughts on those?
No, those are great choices. Like you said, man, Carolina to still be in the thick of the division race this far into the season is a huge credit to the job he's done down there. I think you make a great point with Dan Campbell. And I think we forget Mike McDonald remade the Seahawks coming off of a 10-7 season. I mean, it wasn't like they were 6-11 and a hot mess up there. They were on the cusp of the playoffs, and they went into that soft rebuild, so to speak. So a lot of credit for them for recognizing maybe where their limitations were under the roster that was previously constructed and upgrading.
Okay. All right, Coach, time for the profile. I want to get your thoughts on one head coach from college. And we don't talk about college football that much, but I want to talk about James Franklin for a second, head coach at Penn State. And I know you kind of live in Penn State territory. There's a lot of Penn State fans in New Jersey where you are. This guy he's getting paid a lot of money to do nothing at this point. But what's your takeaway on the state of Penn State football and James Franklin in and of himself?
Penn State, in firing him, owes him $49 million. They paid him $49 million to go away. Exactly. Wow. James Franklin, I've met James Franklin. I mean, he recruited our area a bunch of times. He is a hell of a recruiter. He is, I'll tell you what, in person, he is passionate, enthusiastic. You know, I mean, he could talk a dog off a meat wagon, man. You know, this is a guy who has a natural ability as a recruiter, and they have recruited some high level talent to Penn State, but they haven't developed it. Obviously, I mean, their record against top 10 teams, their record against their biggest rivals, Ohio State and Michigan, was shaky coming into the season. And then Penn State goes out and spends a ton of money, a ton of NIL money to bring back the core of its team that was about 1 minute from the national championship game last year. And they kept these guys out of the transfer portal, and they talked some of them out of the draft and to come back. And then, oh my gosh, right, they lose to Oregon, and then they go out to UCLA, and they're the first top 10 team in 40 years to lose to an 0-4 team. And then they lose to Northwestern, and he's done. And I think that that's probably a move that they felt they had to make, because a lot of pressure in the college game that come from boosters and trustees and people like that, who when that money dries up, now you don't have the NIL money to pay these kids, et cetera, et cetera. So I think from what I've read, that's where it started to go bad for James Franklin. I think Penn State had to make the move. He's underperformed with the talent that he has, and they need fresh blood, so to speak.
Do you think he gets another job somewhere?
100%, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
He's already said he can't wait to coach again, and there's 130 Division I schools out there, and one of those jobs. I mean, his tenure was disappointing overall because he never got Penn State into the elite. But you got to remember too, man, he helped bring them back from the ashes of the Paterno-Sandusky scandal. Bill O'Brien was there for a year and he was like, screw this, man. I'm not picking up this mess. And Franklin did that. So you have to give him a lot of credit for making Penn State relevant again.
Yeah. All right, Coach, this has been good. What's coming up for you on your Call Sheet podcast?
Yeah, so today, Tuesday, is our Monday show is actually out today because we couldn't get it on the air yesterday with Amazon Web Services crashing yesterday. So that's our Monday morning game balls. Tomorrow's show will be Whiteboard Wednesday with Coach Frank Lasasso. We're looking at QB run game. The quarterback run game at all levels of football has obviously become impactful. So we're going to break down a bunch of that. And then Pez on Friday. Pez is on a heater, Jeff.
Yes, he is.
11-0-2. I think over the last couple of weeks in I don't know if it's pro or college, but we'll be talking about his success on Friday.
All right. That sounds great. We'll be back next week on another NFL Whip Around. Coach, hope you have a great week. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.